Welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Health. And today we're still on the topic of diabetes. Now we're actually here with Mr. Keon Constance, and he is the Vice President of the Diabetic Association, and he is also somebody living with and competently managing the disease, because he clearly doesn't even look as if he has diabetes. We're trying to, make people more aware of the disease and the complications that come with it, particularly young people. So tell me a little bit about how you found out that you got the disease, and pretty much encouragement to persons in terms of managing their health.
Okay. Well, first I got to start off with, I believe we have already discussed the different types of diabetes. So there's type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. Now, the type 1 diabetes is more often happen to younger persons. So 2 stages, whether you're between the age of 2 and 7 years old, or in the later stage if you're adolescent. So you're going to think about from 14 years old to up to 17 years old, or myself, I had it when I was 21 years old. So it's usually during the young adolescents or young adults age we have it. Now,
and you have type 1?
I have type 1 diabetes, yes. Now, I've been living with type 1 diabetes since 2012. Yeah, 2011, 2012.
So how do you manage?
Okay. Managing, it can be very difficult sometimes. I'm going to be quite honest. It can be very difficult. But there's 3 things that persons living with diabetes need to have under control. 1 is my diet. 2, my fitness. 3, my medication. Those 3 things, once I have everything balanced off equally, I'm able to manage it pretty well. So, for example, I'll explain. So, my diet in terms of my plate. On my normal plate I have for lunch, I portion out my plate. So, it's going to be, majority of my plate should have vegetables or dark green vegetables. So I usually have at least 60% of my plate's portion vegetables. Then I have another 20% of its proteins. Then another 20% of it carbs or carbohydrates. So that's how I portion out my plates. Now, after I've already had that meal, how is my exercise going to be for the day? It depends on what portion size I eat. It depends on how much I exercise or how hard I go in the gym or on the streets. And of course, once I know how hard I went on exercise and how much I ate, I can now determine how much medication I take with my insulin.
Okay, so insulin is something that you always have to take?
Yeah, so I take my insulin, for myself, I take my insulin 4 times per day. So I have a different type of insulin. It's called Novolog, which is a short-acting insulin. Now that short-acting insulin is usually taken before each meal or after each meal. It takes at least 2 hours to actually kick in your body and before it actually gets full effect.
So you eat 4 times a day?
No, so that short-acting after every meal. Then I have one long-acting insulin. It lasts on my body for 24 hours. I usually may take it every night or every morning. Lasts me 24 hours.
Okay. You have to pretty much live on medication.
Yes, I have to live on medication.
Isn't that an expensive venture?
To be honest, yes, it is very expensive. It can be very expensive. Because living on those medications, plus I have to, as someone living with type 1 diabetes, I had to check my blood sugar every single day. So personally, I check my blood sugar twice per day. It is recommended that someone who's living with type 1 diabetes check their blood sugar 3 times per day. Reason being because they need to check before each meal.
Right.
Before each meal, they'll be able to determine how much insulin they should take. So therefore, if my blood sugar is probably peak, I definitely know I'm going to have a meal or a plate of meal. I definitely know I'm going to have to increase on my amount of insulin I take. Or for example, if I have my blood sugar is relatively low, I will not take that much insulin. Yeah, so that's why I need to be able to check and see how much my blood sugar is at that point in time.
Okay. So the management of it now, so your meal is important, your exercise is important, and the taking of your medication is essential in managing it.
Exactly.
What encouragement do you give to young persons who may be struggling with the illness?
Well, persons who are struggling with it, you got to think about the alternative. you don't eat properly, you don't exercise enough, you don't take your medication, what's going to happen? Eventually, you're going to cut 10, 20 years off of your life. Alright? Not coping with your diabetes properly results in death. Straightforward. That's the only encouragement I can give to you guys. Try to take care of yourself, try to exercise as much as you can. As a young adolescent, I encourage you to exercise 4 to 5 times per week. How much times within those days? At least 1.5 hours, for 60 minutes to 90 minutes per day. It is not too bad. You can do any form of exercise. I'm speaking about sports, I'm speaking about, you can even weight training, you can go stretching, running on the road, swimming is a pretty good exercise. Any form of exercise is an exercise that helps you to burn all those sugar that you've taken. For persons who are living with type 1 diabetes, I know it can be very, very difficult injecting yourself every single day, but the reality is you want to survive, so you have to take it.
Tricky when you travel?
When I do travel, I make sure I carry enough insulin to sustain for my period of time.
Okay, they don't give you a hassle.
No. Think, especially the airports already know there's thousands of people who have diabetes, and the airports is already expected persons to travel with their insulin already.
Okay.
So it's not really a problem. The only problem might be in some countries I travel to, and for instance, I may run out of my insulin. It can be difficult for me to get it because if I go to some pharmacies in the United States, I may need a prescription.
Right.
And not all the time I may have a prescription, so therefore I would have to go to a doctor, get a prescription, then go to the pharmacy. And of course, I'm speaking about the US. If I go to the doctor, that's going to cost me a good bit of money than buying the medication.
Okay. So what's the most challenging part about living with diabetes for you?
The most challenging part of living with it, I've managed to cope with it so much I don't really see any challenging part for me. But it's to keep these 3 elements balanced.
So you have pretty much used your illness as a motivation for self and for others.
Exactly.
I realize you're a part of, a lot of sporting activities, and you try to put on these different activities to bring awareness to it.
Exactly.
And as a young person, you have seen it fit to join the Diabetes Association,
Yes.
to the point where you're actually vice president of the...
So I'm really passionate about it. You can actually see I'm really passionate about it. I do want to help as much young persons out there because the number is actually growing compared to how much young persons we had with type 1 diabetes to now. It is growing a lot. So I can personally, on the list that I personally have, I can at least say I have at least 35 young persons that I know have diabetes, personally that I know of. And of course there are much more who is not on the list as well.
How would you say they're coping with it?
Some, because they've just found out they've had diabetes, they're not yet being able to cope with it, to have these 3 elements balanced off as yet. It can be very difficult finding time to exercise for some person, or it can be very difficult to
Change eating habits.
Change your eating habit. I know a lot of us don't like we consider it's very expensive to afford greens or vegetables.
Right.
We say it's much easier to go buy lunch in town and afford whatever carbs we have. There's always the chicken and chips shop. You can go for $5 a pilau with whatever it costs.
So you mainly cook for yourself?
Yes, I can cook for myself, or I go to a restaurant and eat a vegetable wrap.
Okay.
That's usually my lunch, vegetable wrap. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any final words you want to give to young persons or older persons out there struggling with the disease, diabetes?
As again, guys, my advice to you: try to exercise. Exercise has been the major part of my life since I've been diagnosed with diabetes. I've really got into exercising a lot, and because I've gotten so much into exercise, I've been managed to control my diabetes so much. So try to get into sports and activities.
So there you have it, guys. The importance in managing your diabetes is about your diet, about exercise and about taking your medication.
Correct.
Please ensure that you follow these steps. It has worked for Keon, it has worked for a lot of other persons, and it can work for you too. We know that it is easier said than done. We know that it may be a challenge, but you have the responsibility for your life. Thank you so much again for joining us in Let's Talk Health, and we'll see you in our another session.